Hello race drivers, it's Enzo with the Race Driver Coach Show, talking today about your emotions. When you're in that car, when you're racing and you're on track, all too often we let our feelings come in and have way too much of a say when you're supposed to be bloody driving the car. You're worried about being slow. You're worried about what someone's just done to you on the track. You're worried about what if. Why is this not going to plan? Why is my engineer not talking to me properly over the radio? And all these things. When you're controlling a car at 100, 200, 300 kilometers an hour, 200 mile an hour, going towards a corner, trying to manage the tires, trying to shift correctly, trying to do your racecraft, trying to do anything you can to get around that track as fast as you can in the best possible way, that should be taking up a lot of your attention. Your mental capacity should be on the job in hand. Now, anything else that comes in, like these emotions, like distractions, you haven't got time for them in the car. That's what this video is about. It's to hit home the importance of you focusing on what needs to be focused on when you're on the track, and to basically free up any other mental capacity you've got left for working things out, for calming down, for thinking about tactics that you're going to need in about 3 laps time or something, or how you're going to come into the pit stop. You, as a driver, have got to focus. Now, the big thing that I can see that most drivers struggle with at some point is the civilian kind of worries. And when I say that, I mean the everyday problems that people have about not being good enough, not being enough, not being loved. When a driver lets that come in, when they're in the race car, it's their enemy. To explain this, let me bring a bit of neuroscience in. Now look at this diagram of the brain, and you can see this little nugget here, this little tiny bit, the amygdala. That's your fear factory. That's the kind of thing that flares up and is used a lot in the drivers that worry a lot, that stress when they're in the car, that are over driving, that are really wearing their heart on the sleeve a little bit too much, and they're ignoring or forgetting all the knowledge they know. When this little thing, this amygdala, flares up, you can drive into a hairpin way too hard on the entry, even though you know logically that the exit is the most important thing. It's like you've just thrown out all common sense because of this little bugger that's in the middle. It's only tiny, but I tell you what, it's powerful. And if you let this thing in control and it starts to talk to your logic part of the brain, then you start to make emotional decisions, which are usually not that great when you're in a race car. I've got a goal for you. My goal for you is to use that amygdala less often, to start to think a bit more logically when you're in the car, to be a bit more like an engineer, where you think to yourself, okay, this certain car that I'm in has got its own unique characteristics. You know, it's this kind of weight. It has this amount of downforce. You kind of know all there is about it, when to shift, you know, which light to shift on, how it wants to be driven, the rev band it wants to be kept in, and anything about it. Where's the engine? What's the characteristics in the handling? You've got to really understand the vehicle that you've got your butt inside of before you start to break down of how best to drive it, right? So first off, write it all out. Just write a paragraph. This is what this car is all about. So if I was to take the writing that you do, that you understand about your car, and implant it into an AI robot, they would kind of understand and start to work out what this car needs from them as a driver. Okay, step one. Step two is you go into this track, say if it's like a Brands Hatch, you say turn one is this shape. Okay, I've got it. I know what that looks like, and I can kind of guesstimate, if you haven't been there before, what this car will need through that corner. So say if it's an F3 car, right, really high downforce, you think, right, the approach speed, I can take in more and more speed, so I'm using that downforce. Every single kilometer I can put on that wing to get it will just help it suck it down to that track just that little bit more. So what I want to do is I don't want to over peak the brake, like hit it too hard. I want to just hit it or gently caress the brake so I can take in the speed without upsetting the platform, and then blend in the throttle and on the go. So it's more of a curve rather than a stop in, throw it in and go. These are the kind of things now that you can write out about a track before you go there. So you got the car characteristics, even though they're so basic, you know this. Still, if you're an emotional person often and you're letting that amygdala run the show, it needs to be told this. It needs to say, you need to tell it like, look, these are the facts. Let's keep our mind and our focus on the facts. So anyway, you got the car one, you've got that corner and any other major corners, and you're kind of thinking, right, what does it need from me as a driver? This takes up a lot of capacity in the mind to think like this, and it occupies the mind. So you're using more of the logic and problem solving side rather than that little nugget and thinking, how do I feel about this? What if I'm not quick enough? What if my teammate's quick? Just shut up. Just get your head on the actual game of what needs to be done. Are you a race driver, or are you just this kid that's worrying about not being good enough? The decision is yours. So fill it full of facts and give it to the brain as a bit of a problem solving exercise. So by the time you've got to the track, or before you've jumped on the sim, you've got a very good idea of what needs to be done. Then when you're sitting in the car, that's when to remind yourself of the 1, 2, maybe 5 points on the track, things you've got to do, things you've got to remember. An exit of that corner is the main thing. Fine, got it. Go out on your warm-up lap as soon as you come out that pit lane, and you start to remind yourself of these things that you've got to do for this car at that track in that corner. And you drive it virtually perfectly. Even though you're warming up the tires, you drive it perfectly and you get it in. No bad habits leaking in from that out lap. And then when you actually start to go, you find yourself just driving correctly. Now, it might be a bit off the pace to start with because you're thinking about it a bit too logically, but then you'll start to fill the gaps as you add speed and refine things. That is a much better way, and that's how we go about it in the F1 weekends when we've got to go to a track that we don't know and we're expected to be on the pace immediately. These are the kind of tricks that we do. And I think I've told you about them before. But it's important, even if you've got a full test day ahead, just to get the platform strong, the foundational stuff in, so you're not chasing the basics at the end of day one still. You're being calm because you're so focused on what to do, not how you feel about it.